I've decided to reconfigure the fuel system on the FZR. To that end, I've made this piece that bolts on to the bottom of the tank. So this is going to be the outlet to the mid tank, and from the mid tank, where vapor bubbles keep appearing after the fuel's been pumped through the regulator, this is going to be the line for the air bubbles back into the main tank. So this piece bolts onto the bottom of the main tank, where this original piece used to be. Now, I'm only using one outlet on this, so I'll DevCon up the other one. So this is the surface that is bolted to the tank. The bolts go on the other side, and so I need to put an O-ring around here. So I've got 3 size O-rings, each 1 millimeter difference in length, but yeah, so I should be able to get it to fit. Now, to machine the groove for the O-rings, I have a little tool which hopefully I won't break. I do have a spare. Kev's been good enough to lend me both of these, although I'm going to order my own as well. Now, to do the curvy bits around the end, I'll need to mount it on this, which will go in the rotary table, the the chuck on the rotary table. And then with this bolted in place in the center here, I'll do a half circle here, and then once I've done that, I'll turn it around, bolt it back in, and do the half circle around this end. Now, to join the two together, it's just a straight line, and I know exactly where it needs to go, down this side and this side. So well, I'm actually going to do that in my little round column mill. I will bolt it onto here, line these up on one axis, haven't really decided, not that it matters, one axis, and then I can just offset the amount I need, and then cut the groove, the lengthwise, the groove straight bits on each side, and then I'll just put it back on to Kevin's mill and with the rotary table, and then just cut the curvy bits around the end to do it. So there was a few things to consider setting this up on the mill. The first one is that the clamps are better in the positions they are here, with the T-nuts in the slots here and over here, which means the bolts to mount it are in this direction. So that bolt's on there like that. Now the problem with that is, how do I clock it up in this direction? Because these clamps are really in the way of dial indicator. So it's not that critical. So all I've done is I've clamped my set square down hard up against these bolts, and just lightly underneath this clamp here, just to make sure that it's held. And then I've run the dial indicator along this face. So it's pretty easy to do. You just set it up, and then you wind this back till it the gauge reads 0, or any other number you want, really doesn't matter. We'll just call it 0, and then you wind the bed along in this axis, and you can see here, not a very good quality square. It actually dips down a little bit, and then it comes back at the other end. So for my money, this is good enough to square. So when I'll take this off now, and I'll bolt the piece I want to machine down here. I will clock up on one of these holes in this direction, set this to 0, and then I'll have a start point for cutting the slot in this direction, and I know the distance between these holes. It's 34 millimeters, I think, or whatever. I've measured it anyway. So I'll just cut it that length down here. So next shot will be of the part bolted down, ready to go. I've made the first cut as you can see here. So the cutter that's fitted is, I can't tell, but it's 2.5mm diameter, and I'm cutting it to a depth of 1.5mm. So, did you like the way I jiggled it up and down? Anyway, the O-ring is 2mm, so that leaves room to squash it to form the seal 0.5 millimeter. So the mill seems to be handling it all right, and the cutter seems to be doing all right. I have got, I've got the mill set to, it's a little bit crooked, the belt, but that's just how it is, how it needs to be to put some tension on it. Second highest belt setting, speed. I've got the speed knob set to 2, the switch rather. So the motor itself is turning as fast as it will, and I have also set the VFD to 60 Hertz rather than 50, which is the mains frequency here. So this thing's spinning pretty fast because it's only a 2.5mm bit, but it seems to cut quite nicely, and I've been blowing a bit of compressed air in there to keep the slot clear, and I've been doing it 0.5 millimeter at a time, so that seems to be working just fine. So anyway, into the second one. So I've been around to my mate's place, used his mill and rotary table to do the arcs for the O-ring groove at each end. Now, to be honest, I haven't done a very good job. This was the first one, and the end of the arc didn't meet the straight bit which I'd already machined. It's about 0.5 millimeter out, which is not that good. This one's a little bit better, but still not that good. As my mate said, the idea is actually to make the arcs at each end and then join it together by a straight line. Because it's very easy to get the start point. Just rotate the table till it completely, the other end lines up perfectly, and then you just cut the straight groove to match the two ends. I didn't do it that way, but either way, the groove is 2.5mm wide, 2mm O-ring, so there's a little bit of room each side, and the groove is only 1.5mm deep. So the O-ring sits, it's a bit hard to tell, but it sits about 0.5 millimeter proud of the surface, which is just what you want, and there's room for it to be squashed down and to make the seal, and it works good as gold. So reasonably happy. Could have done a better job, but it's good enough. I keep saying that, my mate keeps disagreeing that things are good enough, you know, when they could be made perfect, but never mind. There we go. I fitted the new fuel outlet to the bottom of the tank, and I've left it sitting overnight with about a little bit less than 0.5 litre in the tank, and this morning no fuel has leaked out, left a mess on the bench, so that's all good. So I'll do now is I will drain the fuel out and just throw it out. The last of the fuel that was in the tank actually smelled a bit like shoe polish, which not ideal. There was something going on in there obviously, but funnily enough the bike ran all right with it. So, but anyway, looks like the job's finished. Came out okay, not quite as good as I would have hoped, but it's for my own project, so not too worried. It's good enough and it works, which is a slack attitude, but there you go. See you later.